What up is Marcus Diceball Dads? We got a little new view here for you. Just some beautiful weather outside here. I've been marathon training, so if I'm a little sweaty, I have to run a 26.2 marathon here October 1st. It's been giving me some good insight on catching up to some of my favorite Dynasty podcasts. I won't spoil them too much for you, but I do listen to a lot of Dynasty fantasy football. We're going to be talking about what can separate you from the rest of the teams that can help you win a fantasy championship. And so a lot of teams that I have won championships for these simple principles. And we're going to go right through them here for you. The first one is the beginning of your draft best player available. You can't lose or you can't win the draft right off the bat, but you can definitely lose it. You have to start looking at situations and start looking at best player available, especially for the first couple of picks. Then I can start trying to filter and start going, okay, well, if I have two wide receivers, now I can start looking at running back. If I have a running back and wide receiver, I give myself a little bit more flexibility. Yeah, you're always trying to plan for the future, but there are players that drop. I had CeeDee Lamb drop to me at like a 205, and it's like, I'm going to take that. And I wasn't planning on him dropping, but you have to take some best players available. I think it helps your team out here. The second one, so that's the most common sense one, but some of these other ones are going to go a little bit more in depth. The second one is so important, is you have to draft high volatility players. And what I mean by that is you have to separate your team from the rest. And how do you do that? Well, you either have to have a really good quarterback, a really good tight end, a positional winner, a running back 1 overall, wide receiver 1 overall. And so to do that, you have to draft some of these players that are high volatile. And so what I'm talking about is, let's look at quarterback. You could draft a Kirk Cousins. You could draft a Derek Carr. You could draft you could draft a numerous amount of players, an Aaron Rodgers or something like that. But to draft a Justin Fields, which is one of my favorite draft picks, 4th to 5th round, is a player that can win you these leagues because he can score 30, 40 points. He has high volatility. Anthony Richardson, who I think is going to be an interesting rookie. I mean, he could do nothing. And he could be absolutely amazing and ended up winning you your league like an RG3 did. And so you have to draft some of these high volatile players. There are other positions that this happens in too. Gabriel Davis, a player that can score 3-4 touchdowns, and a player that also can do nothing and have 1 catch for 12 yards. And so I love these high volatile players because I have played against teams that have had these high volatile players and have beaten me. And I feel like I've had the better team. Mike Williams, for example, was a high volatile player too. You have to draft some of these players that have a high risk, high reward type of situations. It helps get you through some of these playoffs with better teams. And so, again, you have to figure out exactly what high volatile players you have to do. But I love drafting them in those middle rounds because I honestly know who cares about 3rd? Who cares about 4th? I'm either 1st or 2nd, or I'm like 8th or 9th. It doesn't matter to me. I mean, honestly, I would rather, you can't hit a home run without swinging. And so that's what I tell people. You have to swing, and you have to swing aggressively. And so these high volatile players are some of the players that I enjoy the most when you're trying to win these championships. The next is you got to find these breakouts. The breakouts are so important, and a lot of times these breakouts are high volatile players. But let's look at what I discussed last year. We talked about Amon-Ra St. Brown. We talked about Devonta Smith. I think it's my highest viewed video of a breakout. I talked about rookies. I talked about like Garrett Wilson. I talked about Drake London. I talked about Chris Olave. These breakouts, even some of the running backs like Breece Hall, Kenneth Walker, running backs that I was drafting in redraft. You have to figure out where the sophomore, where the rookie breakouts are. Some of the ones that I want to talk about this year. Jahan Dotson, being drafted multiple rounds after Terry McLaurin. I think you're going to get very similar output from both. But I'm going to say Jahan Dotson, breakout. That's going to be one of my breakouts. My second guy, Drake London. I think he's going to be a breakout. Look at where Chris Olave and Garrett Wilson are being drafted. Drake London has the same amount of talent, just doesn't have the quarterback. You could easily see a top 15 season out of Drake London. One of my favorite breakouts. Wide receiver, Jordan Addison. Again, being drafted late. I don't care that Justin Jefferson. I do care that Justin Jefferson's on the team, but he could be an excellent wide receiver 2 for the Minnesota Vikings and a wide receiver 2 in fantasy. And you have to start drafting on some of these breakouts. And again, if he doesn't break out this year, it could be next year. One of my biggest ones was Jackson Smith-Njigba. He's hurt, still potentially worth a flyer depending on how far he falls in drafts. Some of the rookie running backs, Devin Achane, being way down there. Zach Charbonnet, if Kenneth Walker gets hurt, he could easily be one of those league winners. And so that is one of the biggest things that I tell people. You got to find the breakouts. The last one is value-based drafting. This is what leads me to Mark Andrews, the answer of Mark Andrews in second and third round. You have to find players that are going to be value-based drafting. So if you're going to take a tight end number 2 overall, like the tight end 2 overall versus having the tight end 8 overall is a complete difference. That's why Kelsey is a top 6 pick in most redrafts. It's why Mark Andrews needs to be a second round pick. You need to find positional advantages. And there's only so many positions out there, and some people don't even have kickers, which I totally get. And so you either have to do that at the quarterback position, the tight end position, the running back position, the wide receiver position, or the tight end position, or flex position. I saw a team draft quarterback and tight end late. I am somebody that has always been somebody that wants to zig when people zag, or the yin to the yang. And so that's what value-based drafting sometimes often is. And then we talk about tiers, and it's all just another fancy word of what kind of value can I get based off of other positions. So if I'm going to get Mark Andrews, and he's the tight end 2 versus a wide receiver 8, 9, 10 there. Probably we'll just say like wide receiver 9 there. Or a couple rounds later and get a tight end 5 and get the wide receiver 20. Which one would I rather have? Or well, I mean, you'd be... So you get the point of it. Which one would you rather have? A tight end 2 and a wide receiver 20, or a tight end 5 and a wide receiver 10? The difference between wide receiver 10 and 20 might not be a big difference. The difference between tight end 2 and the tight end even 5 or 6 might be a gigantic difference. And that is where you can get these positional advantages. Again, this is why I've been discussing, this is kind of my informational series of like, what can we do to win championships? Because I don't care about 3rd, 4th, 5th, 7th, 8th, 10th, 12th, like, I want to win leagues. And to do that, and why I feel like I've been so successful, is because of these simple principles that you should put in your drafts. Let me know what other simple tricks that you guys have of winning your drafts. Peace out. Take care. We'll see you again very soon.